Hi everyone and welcome back to another candle review of candles sent in by one of you subscribers. Today's video review will be of candles sent in by Soufriere Bay. Hopefully I'm saying that correctly, but I will have the information in the description for you to check out as well. I believe the owner is out of New York. And again, they are a subscriber on this channel. And just like the other candle reviews on this channel, if this is the first time you have seen one, basically we just do an unboxing and check out the candle as far as the jar, the label, talk a little bit about the wax and the wicks and the fragrance. And then I will step away for about a week or so and do some testing of the actual candles. Then I will be right back on the video just a few seconds later, fast forward in time and let you know what I thought about the candle. How it burned, offer any potential tips or suggestions, or maybe, just things I absolutely loved about the candle, just overall feedback. Hi everyone, my name is Wade Thomas. I'm the owner of Black Tie Barn Candle Company. If this is your first time here, please consider subscribing to the channel below and give this video a thumbs up by hitting the like button. That helps out this channel and it also helps you not miss out on any other future content if you are interested in any other videos about candle making, running a candle business, or even more candle reviews. I appreciate you all for being here. So let's go ahead and dive into today's review. But before we do that, I do want to just remind everyone, especially those that have never seen one of these before, that this is completely voluntary. You all just send me candles to review on the channel just for some general feedback and maybe some tips and ideas to help improve your product, or just to let you know what I really loved about the product. So it's all meant to be constructive criticism and positive feedback. We're all part of the same community here to just try to make the best candles we can. So hopefully you guys enjoy this. But if you are interested in doing this as well at some point, just let me know in the comment section and I will respond back to you and we will go from there. So thank you all for being here. I hope you enjoy it. Let's go ahead and get started. I already have this box opened up and the first thing we have here is a quick letter. And again, if you haven't seen one of these before, sometimes I am provided with some basic information about the products or the company. Other times I am just left kind of guessing in the dark about what the products might be made out of, the wax, the wicks, really anything I want to guess about. Sometimes there's another envelope or another letter that lets me know what the answers are to some of those guesses. So it's kind of a fact-checking game sometimes, which is a lot of fun. But it's not always like that. Every review is a little bit different. It just depends on what everyone is comfortable sending. So I'm going to go ahead and open this letter and just take a quick peek and see what it's all about. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and just to let you know a little bit of what this letter is telling. It does provide the specific information about the wax and the oils and the wicks. So I'm going to go ahead and share with you what I know. The way they got started was her and her friend had decided to start a candle and soap company to reflect their Caribbean background. So both of them are, or one of them is from St. Lucia, the other is from Dominica, and all of their candles and soap scents are related to something or what they remember from back home. Their company is actually named after a town called Soufriere. So again, hopefully that explains why I couldn't figure out how to say it right. It's just not a word I'm familiar with. But apparently that town sits on a bay on both of their respective islands, and both islands have that exact same town with that name. So the name fit perfectly for them, and that's why they chose that name. They're using C6 wax, which is a coconut soy wax. And ironically enough, I'm actually doing some work and some testing with C6 for a future video on the channel. So this would be a good opportunity. I don't know that I've done a review yet on the channel of someone using C6. I'm not entirely sure, but I don't think so. And she says that their most popular fragrance is called Sultry Flame, and it's an orange scented candle. And the other one is called Sultana, which is a scented candle that reminds her of a candy that she enjoyed growing up. So that's the basic information on how they got started and a little bit about their candle and their product. Let's go ahead and dig into the products themselves. You can see everything is nicely packaged here. So all the candles are in their own packages and then nicely protected with packing peanuts inside a shipping box. So I'm going to go ahead and get these products out first. Okay, cool. So I'm assuming the candles are inside, but they also sent me a couple soap bars, which is really neat. We have an almond biscotti and a coffee bean. I love coffee fragrances, so I know I'm going to enjoy that one. And they both smell wonderful. Thank you very much for sending the soap bars as well. Here we've got two different candles inside. They're packed in some crinkle paper and with some packing peanuts in between as well. Now I will say real quick, because we'd like to talk about everything that I can visually see whenever I'm doing the unboxing, is I would probably recommend putting a cardboard insert or something between these two candles. The only thing was a tiny bit of crinkle paper and a packing peanut in between, and with too much jostling during shipping, that you do risk a little bit of the jars hitting each other and cracking or breaking. So I would hate for that to happen, because just at a quick glance, these are gorgeous candles. So I would hate for something bad to happen to them. But let's go ahead and take these out. Let's start off with a quick look at both of these. They are stunning. Let's go ahead and start with Sultry Flame. So if you remember, Sultry Flame is their #1 seller, and it is the one that has kind of an orange scent. So we'll talk about the fragrance here in just a second. And yes, it does say here soy and coconut blend, and that is, as a reminder, what C6 is. And this is a 15-ounce candle. I'm not entirely sure if that is completely accurate. I sell candles around this size at about 10 ounces. This is a little larger, so 15 ounces is probably pretty close for the total overall weight, because the entire thing with a jar definitely feels heavier than a pound. So the 15 ounces net weight is probably accurate. Let's talk about a little bit more about the jar. So these are kind of a matte frosted jar, and they are gorgeous. This is kind of an orangish, amberish color, and they kind of have this rose gold top on them. The label, of course, has their logo, Soufriere Bay, which is a simple but very elegant, nice looking logo. I actually love the logo, if you guys can see that. Cursive font, but it's a very easy to read cursive font, and I think it fits their brand perfectly. But I also really like the initials in the background. So I love this logo. This might be one of my favorite logos we've seen so far. And then, of course, the name of the fragrance, Sultry Flame. And then they have sort of kind of this black and white, almost hand-drawn looking image there as well. And then on the bottom, of course, they do have their standard warning label. Let's go ahead and open this one up. Well, that's interesting. Man, that reminds me of something. There is definitely some orange. It actually kind of reminds me of, is it creamsicle or dreamsicle? If you guys know what I'm talking about, that fragrance, that's very, very similar to what it smells like. It smells really good. This might be one of the more unique and favorite fragrances I've smelled in a while. I am partial. I like pretty much all fruity fragrances, but this is not like other orange fragrances I have smelled before. This has that kind of sweetness to it, and that's why I said that dreamsicle or creamsicle, whichever one it is. Hey, put in the comments, is it dreamsicle or creamsicle? I'm curious. So let's take a look a little bit more inside the jar. It's got that kind of a nice, silky, a little bit of a sheen to it, which coconut wax will often give. You know, sometimes it's hard to tell a difference between a coconut soy blend versus just a parasoy blend, because they have a very similar kind of look and feel. Paraffin can have that same kind of texture and sheen to it as well. So it can be sometimes really difficult to tell. The coconut wax usually has kind of a softer, lower melt point than a paraffin does, but it really just depends. There's so many kinds of each wax out there. As you can see, this is a double wicked candle, which for this size jar is what I would recommend. Could do a wood wick in this, and that would get you a big enough melt pool, depending on if you chose the right wood wick, of course. Single wicking this size would be very, very difficult with most waxes. So I like the idea that they double wick this. I believe I saw in the notes that they're using CD wicks. I would have recommended either CD, CDN, or HDP wicks, potentially even some Premier wicks. So I think the wick choice is good. We'll obviously know a little bit more once we get to testing. But based off of everything I've seen so far, I don't think I'm gonna have any concerns about how well these perform, because they just seem like they've done a very good job over here. Very thoughtful on the branding, the labels is gorgeous, the jars are gorgeous, and the wick choice seems appropriate. I have never double wicked a C6 candle myself yet, so I don't really know. I don't really have a recommendation off the top of my head, so I will be interested to see how these burn, and then I can provide some feedback on that as well. But CD6 seems like, two of those seems like a pretty good starting point. I may have started with 2 CD4s, maybe if it was me, but I mean, we're splitting hairs there. So either way, I'm very, very excited to try this. The more I smell it, this really, really smells like a creamsicle. You know what? I think the reason I'm mixing these up, the old kind of candy or ice cream, I think was called creamsicle. But there's a energy drink that is Dreamsicle, I believe. I think it's called Orange Dreamsicle. And I think that's why I don't know which name is correct, but please feel free to correct me. Either way, that's what it smells like to me, and it smells great. Let's go ahead and move on to the next candle. This one has the same look and feel. The label design, everything, of course, is very consistent. This one's called a Sultana, and this is the one that reminded them of some kind of candy back home. And then again, with the rose gold lid, the color of this one is more of a, almost kind of a, it's almost like a rose goldish brown. But anyways, that's an interesting color. I don't know if the camera is going to pick up quite the color that I'm seeing, but it's a pretty unique color. Yeah, that definitely is a candy. What is that? That is going to drive me crazy. Oh my gosh. I know what that is. It's on the tip of my tongue. I don't know. Hopefully it'll come to me as I'm describing this. But once again, this is the coconut C6 wax. It is double wicked with the same CD6 wicks, I believe. I'm definitely interested in how these burn. Again, I have never burned C6 in a jar this size with 2 wicks. So this will be a first time for me, and I'm very, very excited to try them out. I'm also very curious where these jars came from. I've seen jars like this from Woodwick, the Woodwick company. I've seen jars like this from a few other places as well. So I'm curious if those are the jars from Woodwick or if they are something else. But these are gorgeous. You know, I'm not typically fond of these kind of goldish copper or even rose gold lids, but for their brand and their jars, I mean, these look great. This kind of just goes to show you that we all have different preferences, personal preferences on what we like and dislike, or what we're more of a fan of. But with the right brand and the right labeling and the right presentation, I mean, there's so many things that look good. So many things that look good. Okay, I'm going to go back to this scent real quick to see if I can figure out what the heck it is. It's almost like a sweet tart, but I don't think that's right because there's something else to it. I cannot put my finger on it. Both of these fragrances are not something I've used myself, and both of them are very intriguing. I love that orange type fragrance, so I think that's going to be my favorite one for sure. I'm also curious how these are going to perform with hot throw. C6, like a lot of soy waxes and soy blend waxes, can be kind of hit or miss on fragrance oils. It can work great with some and then not as well with others. Like I said, if I had to lean towards one or the other, I prefer the Sultry Flame, which is that orangish dreamsicle creamsicle smell. But those are my overall thoughts. The packaging is great. The presentation is fantastic. The logo might be my favorite part. Like the font you've chosen and your logo is on point. I could not be more impressed with the look of these. These look like a candle I would see on a shelf right now in a retail store. So these are gorgeous candles. Very good job with that, with the packaging, the presentation, everything. They shipped really well as well, and I love your fragrance choices. So the next step of this video, again, is I will be right back here on camera, although I've actually stepped away for about a week to test these, and I will let you know as soon as I get back my overall thoughts about how the testing went, and that includes the wick, how wicking was and how the candle performed overall, how the hot throw was, and then provide any additional input, whether that's just positive comments or maybe some recommendations, you know, and then we'll wrap things up. So thanks for tuning in to this far, and stick around for just a little bit longer, and we'll pick up here after I've had a chance to test these. Hey everyone, I'm back, and I've had a chance to test these candles from Soufriere Bay over the past basically a week and a half. And just like with all candles, mine included, there are great things about these candles, and then of course there's always some room for improvement as well, and that is what we're going to do for the rest of this video, is talk about the things I really liked about the candles, and then maybe offer a few tips potentially as well to try to improve them even a little bit better. This is just from my perspective, my opinion after testing these candles. We all could get different results when we test candles from one another, and I have a lot of the same things that I'm working on even with my own candles. So this is in no way meant to be anything negative at all. This is really just to be helpful potentially, and just constructive feedback from another candle maker. So I want to get right down to talking about how these two candles performed. Before I even do that though, I want to reiterate that by far my favorite thing about both of these candles was the way that they looked. These still remain in the top few candles favorite of mine with the overall appearance. I don't know if the video is going to really do it justice, how good these really look in person. I also like the simple, basic labels, but give you everything you need to know. And it's very clean and very sophisticated looking. It also fits their vibe really well. If you remember, these are based on kind of a Caribbean background, and so that's the whole look they're going for. So this outdoors, almost tropical style looking candle, and I think they just hit the mark really well on these. So as far as how they burned, we're going to talk about them each individually because they did burn a slightly different from one another. And I think that's a key thing to always remember when we're burning and testing candles, is that not all wicks work the best across the board in different fragrances. So you may have the same jar and the same wax, but the fragrance oil can make enough of a difference occasionally to alter the proper or the ideal wick size. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in here in just a sec. But the first one we're going to start with is Sultana. And Sultana was the one that they said was their tamarind scented candle, but I didn't get a whole lot of hot throw from this one. And I thought at first it was maybe just where I had it burning. So I did put this in a few different spots to really try to test out the hot throw. And I was getting pretty consistent results no matter where I was testing it. Now, it's not that it wasn't noticeable. I mean, you could definitely tell there was a candle burning, but it was fairly soft. It was fairly light. And usually on jars this size that are double wicked, it's often pretty strong of a fragrance. I mean, I would say this was moderate, maybe a little below average as far as hot throw goes. There's a couple reasons why this could be the case with the hot throw. One is this is, if you recall, C6 soy coconut blend wax. Now, I've used that wax in testing purposes, but I don't use it in any production. And in my test, the hot throw was always usually around moderate at best. I never got exceptional hot throw, with the exception of a few notable fragrances that just tend to throw well in every wax. But for the most part, I got average hot throw. And then some were below average because a good portion of this wax is made up of soy, and soy waxes can be awfully picky on fragrance oils that work really, really well with it. So I think the fact that it's a soy coconut blend is what's probably contributing the most to a moderate hot throw. And you'll see I did some video clips here of 1 hour burns, 2 hour burns, and let's talk about how they actually burned the wicking. Well, with the Sultana, I thought the wicking was actually pretty good. This one is double wicked, and I would say it maybe could benefit from one size down. They used a double CD6 wicks in each of these candles, and this one, the first burn was pretty good, but after a couple hours, it was already kind of getting fairly large. And then each consecutive burn was pretty much the same thing. So it never got bad in the Sultana candle at all. But I think it could still benefit from one size down. The wicks, the flames got a little large, and potentially if if a customer decided to burn this for a longer than recommended period of time, there might be some issues. The majority got kind of warm, but nothing significant. Actually, the wicking on this one is really, really good, and I would either stick with what you have or maybe try one size smaller, maybe. But overall, I thought the wicking was really good on this one. I think it just might be a fairly weak fragrance, and that is why the hot throw wasn't super strong. But overall, this was a good candle. I love the look of the jar. Obviously, I love the look of the candle. I can't say that enough. And I did enjoy the fragrance as well. It just was kind of moderate or average as far as hot throw. But wicking was also really, really good overall. So I would give this one a thumbs up. This was a good candle. Let's move on to Sultry Flame. Now, this one was the one I was more excited about because I love the fragrance. It almost smells like a dreamsicle or creamsicle fragrance to me. I actually think I mentioned that in the previous part of the video. So I was super excited. I love this fragrance. Now let's talk about the burn first. This one I do feel was a little overwicked. They were the same wick, CD6, but the oil on this one is obviously contributing enough of a factor that it affect wicking. I would recommend going down to one size and potentially two. You would just really need to try and test that out and see which one gives you better results. But this was a perfect example of almost identical candles, but just because of the change in the fragrance oil, one of them needs adjusted on the wicking a little bit. So I would go down 1 or 2 sizes on this particular candle and then test from there. But remember too that this is just one candle that I burned. So I would suggest that if you decide to take that advice and retest this one with smaller sizes, just be sure that it actually is better. But I think it's worth a shot. This one did get a little big on the flames. The jar did get super hot a few times. Now, I don't know how well the video will show that, but I was definitely getting a decent amount of soot kicking off from it. The wicks are really curling significantly, which usually indicates that they're overwicked. And I was getting pretty large, tall, hot flames. So I would definitely recommend wicking down on this one and give it another go and just see how it goes. Again, it might not be the best suggestion in the world, but I think it's probably worth a shot. What I typically do on my candles is I will start them all with the same wick, and then after I do test burns, I will see which ones need to either go up or down a size. And this is probably just an example of one that needs to go down a size. So no big deal. This is also a great time to reiterate the fact that just because you're using natural waxes like soy and coconut, that means they're not gonna soot. That is not true at all. Any wax can soot, especially depending on the type of fragrance oil or wick that is used. It just kind of reminds you that any wax can do that. So if you see black soot, that doesn't necessarily mean there's a problem with your wax. It usually just means you need to adjust wicking. But let's talk about the hot throw. The hot throw was better on this one. I had this one burning in a larger area at first, and I could smell it a little bit better than the other one. And even when I moved this around as well and swapped places, I continue to smell this one a little bit better than the other. Fragrances and hot throw is very, very subjective. You might ask another person to burn both of these candles, and they might have totally different reactions, totally different feedback. But for me, this one definitely had better hot throw. I would say it was good or average for C6 wax, which on a scale of, if I had to put it on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being no hot throw, 10 being the strongest hot throw I've ever had, and 5 being average, I would probably get this around a 6 or so. The other one I'd probably say was more like a 4 or 5. This would be a 6 or 7. So I would say it was pretty good, slightly above average. The cold throw, the hot throw, neither one of those are an issue at all. I would just adjust the wicking on this one and then go from there. All in all, I can't give you enough credit with your labeling and your jars and the overall look of this candle. Anyways, that wraps up this video. I really hope you guys enjoyed this and got a little bit of information out of it. If nothing else, just some entertainment. I would like to give another shout out to Soufriere Bay Company for sending these candles in for review. They are absolutely gorgeous candles, and as I've said several times by now, they are among my favorite ones that have been sent in so far as the way they look. The jars, the labels, the whole story behind them. I love the fact that you and your friends started from the Caribbean island, and yet on 2 different islands, you both had a Soufriere Bay. That's just really interesting. It's almost like it was meant to happen. So congratulations on the story. Congratulations on the effort and work you've put in so far. You guys are going to be successful if you're not already. Let me know if the wicking suggestions I offered on the sultry flame help you at all. And if not, well, I apologize. Thanks again, everyone, for checking out this video. If you are interested in checking out any other of these review videos, I do have an entire playlist dedicated for reviews, candle reviews. Or if you're interested in sending one in for yourself, just let me know in the comments and we will go from there. Be sure to check out other videos on the channel and subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks for stopping by, and I'll talk to you all next time. Thanks.